After Xavier Edwards hit his first home run of the season this Sunday, he then proceeded to hit for the cycle. Does that stellar performance make him the top waiver wire ad heading into Week 18? Stick around as I have the answer to that and much more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly, truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, most importantly, to Matt and I, guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience. Through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in giving us a chance on Subtext, you can find the link to our Subtext to wherever you're listening or watching, or if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. And guys, today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse.com. It is the most reliable way to get parts fast. Shop for your next plumbing, HVAC, or electrical job and get fast shipping from coast to coast at SupplyHouse.com. And I mentioned it at the top, and I've been telling you guys to add him for a while, so I'm not even going to tease it. Let's talk some Xavier Edwards of the Miami Marlins. And he's just been on a tear this year, through his 24 games played, 349 batting average, 12 runs, 14 runs, 1 homer, 9 RBIs, and 8 steals if you include the game today as I'm recording on Sunday. And as I mentioned, Xavier Edwards hit for the cycle today as I'm recording. He's been hitting leadoff a bunch. The future looks pretty bright for, the 24-year-old Xavier Edwards. Has really honed his skills in his whole minor league career, has been a very good batting average guy, a lot of steal potential from Xavier Edwards. When it comes to the underlying stuff, sprint speed isn't blowing you away, but it's above average, but he does do a lot of things really good. Finding that sweet spot very well is Xavier Edwards. He's squaring the ball up well. He's not chasing, not whiffing, not striking out, walking a lot. So there's a lot that we like here with Xavier Edwards, and with the multi-positional eligibility on Yahoo, when it comes to second and short, he's 34% owned on Yahoo. So this is one of my favorite ads of the week, guys. I know I've talked about him before, but as he's doing better, and we're starting to get a little more exposure on his name, especially after Xavier Edwards has hit for the cycle now. 34% owned on Yahoo. I wouldn't be shocked if that is, let's say, 60, 70 by the end of this upcoming Week 18 here. So I think we need to stash him. I like what he brings to the table when it comes to speed. We're probably not going to see a lot of power. He's not somebody who hits the ball very hard. But, leading off, a lot of runs, a lot of speed, and a plus batting average is giving you 3 of the 5 major categories at a plus. So I really do like what I see here with Xavier Edwards so far. And at 24 years old, as I said, I think Miami is going to hold on to him, as it looks like they're selling here, going into the second half. I think this guy is going to be somebody who sticks around a while. So let's add Xavier Edwards now while we can. Let's move on to the second guy of the day. A very interesting name. Let's talk some Tyler Fitzgerald of those San Francisco Giants. Another guy kind of has come out of nowhere a little bit here, and I really like, what I've seen so far from Fitzgerald. 44 games played on the season, 324 batting average, 25 runs, 9 homers, 19 RBIs, 7 steals. And just of late, since July 20th, Tyler Fitzgerald has been on a tear. It's been 4, 6, 7 home runs in about an 8-day stretch here, or we could even call it a 7-day stretch if you knock out the 28th today, where he did not homer. Fitzgerald might be lightning in a bottle. We might be trying to capture it. It might be a little bit too late where Fitzgerald is, might be peaking out here. He is 65% owned on Yahoo. I do like some of the underlying stuff I see here. It is a small sample size, but you know what? He's not chasing a lot. Sweet spot looks good, barreling the ball up very well. The sprint speed is legit. So when it comes to Tyler Fitzgerald of the San Francisco Giants, the minimum we could at least rely on him for that speed. I think he's going to stick around in that San Francisco Giants lineup, as you know what, they don't have a lot of other options, and he's been performing very well. Tyler Fitzgerald is 26 years old, coming up through the minors. Has a couple of good seasons. In 2023, he hit 22 homers with 32 steals and hit 292. And in 2021, in the minors, Fitzgerald had 19 homers, 12 steals with a 262 batting average. So he does have a little bit of pop, a little bit of speed. You always love to get that off of the waiver wire. A guy who can add a little bit of everything. Shortstop and outfield eligibility on Yahoo. So another guy, multi-positional eligibility. Love having guys like that on my bench where you can switch them in and out as you need to. And you know what, with a guy like Fitzgerald or even in Xavier Edwards, as we talked about earlier, if they cool off and we don't need them anymore, you know what, we got them for $3.99 sitting at the end of our bench, ready to swap out for that next guy. And you know what, this time of year, that's almost the name of the game. As you're making those playoff pushes, it's not really the time to be passive anymore and say, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this guy for another couple of weeks just to see because I think they're good. No, get the Tyler Fitzgeralds and the Xavier Edwards into your lineups and just don't be afraid to cut bait. Maybe in shallower leagues, we're not doing that. I would say 15-mans or ALNL onlys, we're not going to do that. But when you get to your 12-man leagues and you're anything shallower than that, don't be afraid to make the moves because this time of year, you got to cut the dead weight off your roster and pick up these hot guys because you know what? You never know when one of these guys are going to be those players that just ride out the season on a heater and bring you that fantasy baseball glory. And if you have specific questions, say, Dom, you know what? I want to pick up Xavier Edwards or Fitzgerald, but I'm just not sure if I should drop, XYZ player for them. Join us on Subtext. We will answer those direct questions and make sure you are making those right moves when it comes to adding these waiver wire players. Let's move on. Got a catcher for you, a New York Yankee, another guy we've talked about here and there on this podcast. Let's talk some Austin Wells. Austin Wells has been a guy I've always been excited to, finally get to the majors and just really see what he can bring to the table. And he's here for those Yankees now. Hasn't been a huge difference maker up until, last couple of weeks. The last 7 days specifically, Mr. Austin Wells has been very good. Last couple of weeks. Let's do last 7 days. Let's do last 7 days for Austin Wells. 9 for 21 with 3 homers, 3 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and a 429 batting average. Austin Wells can bring the power for sure. Hasn't really shown off a lot of it in the bigs yet. But you know what? This is a guy that can hit, 250 plus. Doesn't really strike out a lot. It walks a lot. Good in those points leagues. I like that he hits in Yankee Stadium. He's been hitting in the middle of that lineup of late, specifically fourth for the last 3-4 games there for Austin Wells that he started. So I like the home run and RBI potential. He may leave you a little bit left to be desired when it comes to batting average. The runs actually look really good so far, too, with the guys batting behind him. Once again, the Yankees lineup is good. We've only added a little bit more with getting Jazz involved there. So Austin Wells is definitely somebody at 12% rostered. Guys, what are we doing here? In those 2 catcher leagues, you got to have Austin Wells rostered. And honestly, even in those 1 catcher leagues right now, if you're in, 15, AL only, stuff like that, even those 12s, I think Austin Wells is getting in the conversation to at least be, one of those top 12 catchers when it comes to fantasy baseball. With that being said, I got a couple of more bats for you guys, and then we are going to get into the pitchers. But guys, that is coming up next. And guys, we are talking about our friends at Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest info to help you get the job done right. Shop at a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining SupplyHouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM. Order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. And then, guys, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for your everyday to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And then once again, Matt and I are introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As this season continues to unfold, you can rely on Matt and I for our dynamic content. You're going to get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call-up notifications, injury reactions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy league by joining the Diamond Club on the Subtext platform, where the path to your victories begin. Subscribe now and elevate your fantasy baseball experience to a new level. And all right, guys, we're jumping right back in here. I told you we got a couple of more bats, and I wasn't lying to you. The next one up, though, is Jorge Soler. And a name that I don't know if I've mentioned him at all this season, and honestly, for good reason. Mr. Soler has been a little bit of a letdown after a pretty strong year last year. Jorge Soler has played 92 games this year. He has 56 runs with 12 homers, 39 RBIs, and 1 steal as well for Soler. Like I said, not really what we hoped for. I kind of thought when Soler was going to go over to San Francisco, it's a park that saps a little bit of power. We know Soler hits the ball really, really hard, but he is no Barry Bonds. Jorge Soler is up to 63% owned. He leads off for the Giants. Kind of just like what he's been doing of late. Let's talk about the last week. And Soler's the guy that does it in bunches, so I think we kind of got to juice the orange and grab Soler while he's hot. The numbers over the last week for Mr. Jorge Soler look a little something like this. He has hit, if my laptop ever wants to work with me here, 8 runs over the past week for Soler with 2 homers, 6 RBIs to steal, and he's hitting 400. So like I mentioned, the home runs and, just the success comes in bunches for Soler. It could last a month at a time even, so I think we just add him now, because even in the past month, couple of weeks, we just see the things that we like to see from a guy like this, and he can go surge very, very quickly. So I think we add Soler in those leagues that we can. I still feel like he's a little bit even over-owned at 63%, but I still think there's leagues where we can profit off of adding him just to see where, it goes. If he goes on one of those power stretches, we aren't going to regret it, so I don't want to be left out. I will add him now. Let's move on to our last bat of the day, and it's Nolan Schanuel of those Angels. Mr. Schanuel is, a guy that my brother Matt really, really loves a lot. Kind of wish he was on the episode to break him down a little bit more for us, but, I'm going to do the best job I can in his absence. Nolan Schanuel is, only 7% owned on Yahoo, first base eligible. 97 games this year for the young Schanuel, 247 batting average, 38 runs, 11 homers, 37 RBIs with 4 steals as well. And just another guy that's just been hot of late. I don't mind, making these roster moves at this point in the season just to get the hot hands in. And Schanuel is no exception to that rule. Schanuel last week, 5 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 350 batting average. And Shiloh is just a name that we should just keep in the back of our heads going forward. He is still super young, was only drafted last year, made his debut last year as well at 22 years old, one of the youngest guys in the league. 6'4", 220 for the young Chanuel. Like I said, I'm adding him. A lot of the under stuff I see, I really like. The batting average stuff looks good. Squaring the ball up nicely, not chasing, not whiffing, not striking out, and walking a lot as well. So just stuff that you like to see from a young guy. Might not be, the breakout year for Shanuel this year, but, I definitely think it's in the cards for the young first baseman from the Angels next season. Let's move on to the pitching half of this show. And guys, we got a bunch of good names, so make sure you lock on in for it. Let's talk Jeffrey Springs first. Jeffrey Springs is ripping and raring and ready to make his debut this upcoming Tuesday, July 30th against those Miami Marlins we were talking about earlier. Nice little cushy matchup for Jeffrey Springs, who has had a bit of success in the minors, and we all know how good he's been the last few years when he's been able to get out there on the mound and be successful. So let's talk about his minor league rehab assignment. 12 starts, 4.50 ERA, 32 innings. Only 5 walks, which I really like to see. 36 strikeouts, a 1.34 whip. Not as successful as I thought. But over the last few years, been really, really good. We can even do from 2021 to 2023 from Jeffrey Springs. 28 starts, 79 games total, 16 wins, 6 losses for Springs over that time. 196 innings, 231 strikeouts, only 49 walks, a 103 whip, and a 3.14 FIP, which is fielding independent pitching. ERA indicator kind of just gives you the indication on where the ERA should be rather than where it is. And Jeffrey Springs has just been really good over the last few years. I know he's 31 years old and hasn't pitched in a while. I think we're still adding him a 41% owned. There's just still so much room to profit on adding a guy who was, before he went down and got the Tommy John in 2023, he really looked like he was going to be one of the top pitchers in all of baseball. And I'm still going to ride that wave and see if there's anything left in that Jeffrey Springs tank. Before we move on and talk about a young Dodgers pitcher that's been fantastic, and a young Braves pitcher that's been really good, and a couple of more starting pitchers, we have those fantastic names for you guys coming up next. And guys, we're talking about our friends at Stitch Fix. You know the instant confidence boost you get from wearing an outfit that makes you look really good. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you, make it super easy to update your wardrobe this upcoming season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find a new on-trend favorite that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes, and when I want, I don't have to wait. There's no subscription required, and they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's that easy. My stylist always sends me just the right pieces, and the fit is always on point. It's like they have style ESP or something. I don't know how they do it, but they just really get me. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. You can get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off your first fix. And all right, guys, I promised you a young Dodger starting pitcher, and we might as well go with one. Let's talk some RiverRyan. And RiverRyan, I actually talked about him. I believe it was going into the All-Star break, and I said, you know what, guys, I've heard rumors of him getting called up. Let's just see how the thing goes. And actually, if you've ridden and stuck in there, RiverRyan has just been pretty good through his first 2 starts. The first one was at San Francisco. He went 5.1 innings, struck out 2, did not give up a run, had a 1.3 whip. And in his second one against Houston, he was even better. He only gave up 1 run. He got the win in 5.2 innings, had 8 strikeouts and an 0.88 whip. So RiverRyan, through his first 2 starts, has actually been very, very successful, has looked very good. And honestly, if he sticks in the rotation, RiverRyan might be going against those Oakland Athletics in his next start. So RiverRyan being 17% owned, honestly, guys, I'm adding him almost everywhere where he's available, because I think there's a shot he sticks in the rotation. If not, maybe there's even a shot that he gets traded in a big Dodgers trade, because they've been showing him off and he's been successful so far. So, RiverRyan has a nice little repertoire through his first couple of starts. Got the fastball going there, slider, changeup, curveball. He mixes in 5 pitches at least 8% of the time, mainly relying on that big fastball slider combo. Fastball's above average. He averages about 96, gets up there close to 100, RiverRyan does. And I feel like the Dodgers just grow these guys on trees, because 6'2", 25-year-old, 195 pounds, right around the Stones, the Sheehans, just all those young, pitchers that the Dodgers have coming up through their system. And even guys like Bobby Miller and Walker Buehler, who, did the same as well and just have been successful. Honestly, wouldn't be shocked if we have the same with RiverRyan. So another guy, just really want to add him now, because even if he does get traded and he goes to a team where he can start, look at Drew Thorpe. I know he got banged around in his last one, but you know what? When guys go to bad teams, they can get the chance to start, which wouldn't be shocking for Ryan. And even if he stays with the Dodgers and just can keep starting with them, just manages to keep being good, and they say, hey, we just got to keep putting him out there every 5th day, there's a shot that happens as well for the young RiverRyan. Like I said, just really want to add him on my teams right now. Let's move on to Yerry Rodriguez, another starting pitcher, this time Toronto Blue Jays. Another guy, I feel like I've talked about him a couple of times this year, told you guys to add him, and if you did it, honestly, you're not really mad at the results. Yerry Rodriguez, 9 starts this year. I mean, only 1 win, a little bit disappointing, but those Blue Jays haven't been fantastic. A 3.69 ERA, a 1.26 whip, 39 innings pitched, 42 strikeouts, so he's over that K per 9. The ERA and whip aren't killing you. They're not fantastic, but they're not horrible either. Through his last 4 starts, 3 of them have been really good. In the bad one against Arizona, at least it was only 3 earned runs and 7 strikeouts. So I will take that from Yerry Rodriguez. The stuff is pretty good for him as well. Just really getting for the first time to show off, how good he is this year as a 27-year-old. Mainly leads with that 4-seam fastball that sits around 94. Another guy, fastball slider combo, but also throws a curveball and sinker too, and mixes in a split finger about 8% of the time. He's been seeing success with his best 2 pitches, which is the 4-seamer and the slider. So you really love to see that from the guy, Yerry Rodriguez. If, they ever catch up to him, things might go the other way. But for now, he's been really good in his last start. His last couple against Tampa, Arizona, Seattle, Houston, bunch of good teams mixed in there. His next start, let's see if we can kind of get an idea where that's going to be for you guys to tell you what I'm thinking about that one. Looks like he might line up for actually Baltimore on Monday as you guys are listening to this. But you know what? Let's take it one step further. Looks like he might see the Yankees in Yankee Stadium after that. That's never really a fun matchup. So he gets 2 in-division matchups. So with that being said, with Yerry Rodriguez, adding him in deeper leagues, those thinner leagues, Yerry Rodriguez is 17% owned on Yahoo, if I didn't mention that already. Maybe a little bit of a wait and see to see how he does in those shallower leagues. But, in those in those deeper leagues, I did say that correct. In those shallower leagues, we're going to wait on him. In those deeper leagues, we're going to try and add him now and, kind of ride the wave. Let's move on to somebody who I think has been a little bit more impressive of late, and that's Spencer Schwellenbach of those Atlanta Braves. Another dude, I've mentioned him quite a few times on this podcast, 32% owned the young Schwellenbach. It's just a very inconsistent pitcher that has the raw talent to do it. And boy, oh boy, did Schwellenbach show that off in his last game. Against those Mets in his last one, Schwellenbach went 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, got the win, no earned runs, had an 0.2 .229 whip for the young Schwellenbach. Really like what this kid brings to the table. Let's see once again. Let's try and grab you that next matchup for Schwellenbach. Honestly, at this point, I'm probably just adding him everywhere. And he gets Miami. He gets Miami, it looks like, on August 1st. So why would we not be adding him for that? I'll you know what? If you guys have stuck around to this point, I'll honestly just be straight adamant with you guys. I think Schwellenbach's my favorite pitcher out of the bunch. Him and RiverRyan are close, but even all the underlying stuff for Schwellenbach looks really, really good. They love, the ERA. They love that, he gets batters to chase, to whiff, to strike out, not really walking too many guys, not giving up a lot of hard contact or being barreled up that much. Gets good extension for, a big guy at 6'1", 200 pounds, 24 years old. I think Schwellenbach has a chance to be a very, very good pitcher in this league. Gets the tutelage of the Chris Sales, the Max Fried, that good Atlanta Braves coaching staff. They really know what they're doing over there. So, another guy that Schwellenbach, we're not seeing the breakout this year, but could he go down the stretch, last, 10 starts and just be really, really good? I think there's a very high possibility of that with Schwellenbach. So if he is out there in your leagues, I am definitely adding him. But a guy that, if he goes on like a really bad 3-start stretch, I don't know if I'm necessarily worried about it. Maybe you start playing the matchups at that point, but he's a guy that is not going to be consistent the rest of the way. But of course, those last 10 starts, I could see, 5 of them being really good, 3 being serviceable, and then what does that leave us with? 2, mediocre to bad starts, and I think we can live with that when it comes to a guy like Schwellenbach that we're picking up off the waiver wire for absolutely nothing. Let's move on to our last name of the night. Let's talk some Xavier Assad of the Chicago Cubs. Xavier Assad, last couple of years just been serviceable. He actually pitched today as I recorded, and when I say serviceable, he is the definition of that. Against Kansas City today, Xavier Assad went 6 innings, got the win, 5 strikeouts, 3 earned runs, a 1 whip. And like I said, just a definition of serviceable on the year. Assad, not including the start today that I just mentioned, it's been 18 starts, 4 wins, a 3.15 ERA, 138 whip, 88 innings, and 81 strikeouts. Not a guy that I love, more of a deeper league cut. And, he's 32% owned on Yahoo, so not very widely owned. His next start is going to come against those St. Louis Cardinals, but it looks like he might get the White Sox after that. So, a couple of pretty manageable starts here for Xavier Assad going forward. I like what I see from him. Like I said, he's been pretty solid the last couple of years. The whip is something we know is going to be a little bit high, but he suppresses runs pretty well. Underlying stuff doesn't really love him, so he's a guy that, I'm not necessarily afraid to drop if I add him, and he's, throws out a couple of clunkers. I'm going to get rid of him right away. Do like the pitch mix, though. 37% sinker, 20% cutter, 19% fastball, 10% slider, curveball, 3% changeup. Xavier Assad, you're pretty much standing up there and you don't even know what's going to come next at you. The sinker gets a lot of success, but the cutter and the 4-seamer get hit pretty well. So if I was Assad, I might tamper back on those a little bit, and especially since the velocity on those 3 pitches is very similar. It's not like Xavier Assad is going out there and fooling guys when it comes to that. So a guy who's always going to be a little bit of a mixed bag, but does know how to, go out there and win games. Once again, Xavier Assad, Chicago Cubs, 32% owned. Not my favorite guy today, but definitely a guy that I'm not afraid to go out there and add, especially with his next 2 starts. Like I said, Cardinals for Assad, then it looks like the White Sox. I will put him out there for those 2. Guys, with that being said, that is all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And shout out to our everydayers and new listeners for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And guys, once again, if you like what you hear, if you enjoy the content that me and Matt are putting out there, and you need that little extra bit of help getting over the bump to win yourself a fantasy baseball championship, I'm telling you, give us a chance on Subtext. Yeah, you get so much more than we offer here in this 30-minute episode. Very attentive. We'll get back to you guys, very quickly. This time of year, you might have those tough add or drop questions, tough trade questions as we get towards the trade deadlines in a lot of fantasy baseball leagues. And Matt and I would truly, truly love to help put you guys over the top and get you some Locked On Fantasy Baseball championships. So once again, if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, you can find the link in the bio wherever you're listening or watching, or if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. But guys, until next time, see ya.